Hello, everyone. Jeff Cherry at Cherry Wealth Advisors. We want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend this webinar to discuss 2020 election and how our thought process is going through the next couple of weeks here and how the election, the presidential debates, and all the things that have been happening lately can affect you and your investments. I want to let you know that I'm recording this the morning after the debate here on Tuesday night. Wow. I don't know about you, but I'm not convinced anybody won that debate. And if anything, I think the American public lost. I'm not going to get into my political views today, but I think all of us are concerned about the future and kind of disappointed in that debate and kind of the things that happened. But we wanted to put this webinar out because we want to let you know how the future, we believe, might be affecting you, your investments, and your retirement life. We have some ideas and concepts that we believe can put you in a better position going forward. And maybe this is the time, now more than ever, with 2020, the COVID-19, what's happened in our country, the world, our health, our wealth, and our future. And now amongst everything, a presidential election. I'm sure many of you are concerned, a lot of our families are. We want to reach out to you today to give you some concepts and ideas of what we think, some actions that you might be taking to maybe put yourself in a better position for your financial future. So bear with me for a minute here. We're going to get our screen set up here to do our webinar today. Here again, thank you for attending. And we're looking forward to a good visit here this morning. Okay, Decision 2020. Are your finances ready? A lot of concerns and issues that I think all of you are looking to be concerned about. Legally here, we're going to talk about this 2020 election, the 2020 election, what we think is going to happen with you and your finances going forward, and a viewpoint here from Cherry Wealth Advisors. Legally here, I have to have a disclosure. That disclosure is basically saying we're not CPAs, we're not tax planners. Make sure that this is just concepts that we have here to double check anything that's taxes and investments going forward. And we've hopefully satisfied our responsibility here to do the disclosure. You know, like I said, I was a little bit disappointed last night in that debate, and they do say that hindsight is 2020. But whose hindsight could have told us 2020 would play out like this? Wow, what a year. No doubt you've looked at your TVs and your smartphone, the internet, you've watched television, been bewildered, you've been frustrated, amazed, probably all at once. I kind of was last night as I watched that seminar. Basically waking up every day trying to make sense of everything can be pretty daunting right now, particularly here with the COVID-19 virus. But guess what? On top of what's happened in 2020 and the COVID-19, we now have this presidential election here coming up in a few weeks. And whether you vote at your local precinct or you set up a similar to what you see here, you might vote by mail, this election could be the most consequential in all of our lifetimes. Now, I know the cliche goes, it's repeated before every presidential election, but this year I do believe is really going to be different. And I think more and more of us are paying more attention today than we ever have in the past. When it comes to factors to decide the elections, issues are going to be raised, certainly. Technology, trade, infrastructure, regulating social media, steps to take with China, immigration viewpoints, the prospect of still the wall along Mexico, the legitimacy of monuments dedicated to those who led the Confederate forces in the Civil War, Black Lives Matter, and the two sides are divided, the eruption of maybe violence at various protests, long-standing differences and other issues continue to exist. And for example, the disagreements over the best policies for healthcare can have a huge impact on you, your family, all Americans, and especially retirees. But how could this election affect you and your retirement? That's why we're here today. We want to discuss and maybe look at some actions that you might want to consider taking to put you in better control of your financial life. And from a 30,000 point view, we might take a look at the presidential election. One of our goals here at Cherry Wealth Advisors is to customize a retirement plan for you. So that's what we've been doing here for the past 25 years as an independent fiduciary, meeting with families just like yourselves. And we want to put you in a great position to for you to be able to retire and ready for election day and beyond, not just the election day. Let's face it, well, there are sharp differences between these two candidates, their personalities, their platforms. We saw that at the debate the other night. What makes 2020 totally different from any other time in our lives is the existence of the COVID-19. This pandemic has changed how all of us live, from social distancing to staying at home, wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. The year has been crazy. The virus has tested our patience. The results have not been very positive. You know, the US is leading the world in the coronavirus infections and deaths. And however, though, our global stature as a giant in the gross domestic product makes it very imperative, though, that we need to find ways to open our economy to overcome this devastating unemployment. So many issues that whichever person wins is going to have to address in the future. Talk about market analysis now. Let's talk about the economy for a minute. You're likely going to get a different viewpoint from any expert out there. One's going to say the market's going to go up. One's going to say the market's going to go down. We definitely have to remember actually what happened in March. The COVID-19, when it kind of got announced and the market became fearful on March the 9th, if you remember, the Dow sustained its largest single one-day plunge to date. On March the 11th, the World Healthcare Organization declared the COVID-19 a global pandemic. And then the market dropped two more record point drops, a 13% drop in March. The Dow Jones averaged almost 3,000 points. Now, mind you, that marked the single fastest drop in Dow history. The S&P 500, which we follow a lot, lost 30% in 22 days. And I'm sure that was alarming to each and every one of you, that 30% loss. So then we continue to look into the presidential So then we look into the presidential race. Keep in mind that the financial issues we face in this country could have as much impact as any election result in terms of what you should consider doing to safeguard your financial future. Moves that you can make now don't necessarily hinge on the election, but how long before we have another presidential election? 4 years, right? But how long are you going to retire? Hopefully for 20 or 30 years. Believe me, you have opportunities right now that you can vote for that presidential candidate, but you also have opportunities right now to protect your financial future going forward. Now, I know some of you really think that the stock market's going to react one way or the other, depending on who wins the election. As I mentioned to you, I'm recording this the morning after the debate. I would have not thought that the market would have had an increase today, the day I'm recording. Who knows? And it's so uncertain these days. Now, there's never any harm in examining historical trends for the stock market. Election results and concerns stemming from who wins don't always shape the way the market envisions, that some people envision it. Stock market returns during election years vary greatly. In this century alone, we saw a 16% jump in the market in 2012, 16% up, the year that Barack Obama won re-election by beating Mitt Romney. We also saw, though, a 37% market drop in 2008 when Obama beat John McCain. Now, of course, that year, we were also in a great recession. We happen to be in a recession now, too, stemming from the economic impact of the coronavirus. What I'm getting at here, folks, is many factors influence the market. And yes, the election could be one of them. Now, regardless of whatever element cited for an economic downturn, the fact is another 30% loss could really affect your retirement. So let's say, example, just like back in March when the market went down 30%, let's say you had $750 in your investment retirement portfolio. And God forbid we have another 30% loss. That is a $225,000 decrease in your investments. Pretty scary, right? Now, I want to emphasize this can happen very quickly as it did back in March. Now, if you're retired And let's say you need to create income off of your investment accounts, all right? And you were to need, let's say, if you lost 240,000, you were maybe having to pull out $40,000 a year to supplement your retirement. That is a loss of 5.6 years of income. That $225,000 loss might have happened in 30 days, like in March. It also might have taken you 10 years to build that money. So stock market volatility can be very, very scary. And in retirement, we do everything we can to show you how to protect your money, keep it protected, and not experience these types of loss. Now, back in March, when the Dow did drop 13% and the S&P dropped 30 in the weeks that followed, we were steadily on the telephone with our clients. That's our fiduciary responsibility to take care of the clients here at Cherry Wealth Advisors. Now, to be clear, we weren't on the phones because we were panicked. We weren't on the phones because our clients should have been panicked. We were simply reaching out to you, our clients, to remind them that we have put together a plan, that Cherry Wealth Advisors has already put together a plan to put in place for times just like what happened in March. And we believe we can put together a plan that might happen after the election. Now, those were some of the best conversations I can remember having in years, because I get so much confidence from you, our clients out there, that told us, we know you put together a plan, we know we were protected, and it gave us at Cherry Wealth Advisors and our clients a lot of confidence. But what was troubling about some of those conversations that we heard was, our neighbor lost 27%. Or they might have said, my sister called me and her advisor has not even reached out to me today. Are you certain that you want to sit back and let stock market volatility play out to where it could reduce the value of your retirement accounts? That's why we're doing this webinar today. We believe there is some uncertainty ahead, and we want to make sure you have an opportunity to have a plan to protect you from this. So the first and number one concrete action that we believe you should consider taking is to get a better understanding of your financial picture and to understand how much potential risk you are taking. Now, it's not uncommon for us to meet with folks who are entering retirement within a few years, and they still have 60 or 70% of their money exposed to market risk. Now, look, here's my attitude. If you can live your life, your desired retirement life, right now, without having to take significant market risk, you should likely do that. Now, I understand this kind of flies in the face of some traditional wisdom. You maybe heard brokers spout for decades, when the market starts to plummet, they're known for saying, just ride it out, stay the course, don't make any changes. The problem here is there's no course on which to stay in because we've never been actually in this situation before with the COVID-19. There's never been a global pandemic anywhere near the magnitude of COVID-19, impacting the US and the global markets. There's never been this much unemployment during any election year, leaving the foreseeable future uncertain. So I don't mean to be too blunt about this, but anybody giving you blanket advice just to sit tight right now seems highly aloof to me on what's really going on. And if you don't absolutely need to be taking risks to get to where you're going, this kind of exposure doesn't make sense to us here at Cherry Wealth Advisors. So the first action step we're going to give you a chance to do today is we have a complimentary risk analysis. We can put together a report for you that can help identify the potential amount of money you could lose if we have some significant losses in the market. And I guess the question I want to ask you, would you like to know before or after the market goes down, how much exposure you have and if there should be some changes made? This is a phenomenal report that we use for every one of our clients that come in, and we're offering this to you today. So you'll see on your screen that I have carved out some time on my calendar for you to get a hold of us and take action to get this complimentary review for you. There's no cost, there's no obligation. It is just a great way to get a little more clarity and understanding the position you're in now, and if maybe any changes should be made before the election or soon after, which I think makes a lot of sense to each and every one of you. So action step number one, get a better understanding and a much more clarity of the type of risk that you might be exposed to, and let us show you different ways that we structure investments to keep you from being on what I call the big roller coaster ride in retirement. As for the election goes, Donald Trump tends to be a very polarizing figure. He does seem, though, to maintain a little bit of support, loyal support from his supporters. The adverse effects of the coronavirus can contribute to him battling from behind in the polls. Moving on to the general election, the pandemic represents several unique risks for the 45th president. Understand, folks, this is not a political, we're not taking a political stand here, but you can tell from the debate the other night that, man, there's so much uncertainty out here, and I'm sure almost all of you are pretty concerned about what's going to happen in the future. Let's talk about capability for a minute. The pandemic is the nation's, this pandemic is the biggest national crisis that Trump has had to manage. Voters could look at the death toll, the inability to contain the virus at levels seen in other countries and the globe, and conclude that Trump's reelection could cause the crisis to worsen for a second term. Many statements he's made regarding the virus can be called into question, as well as his decision to push much of that pandemic response to the nation's governors. Now remember, there is a reason we call this the United States. The founding fathers coveted states' rights. Their desire to ensure individual liberty hinged on restricting centralized power. So it could be argued that Trump's handling of the coronavirus pandemic developed in principle on the states and local municipalities, knowing what's best for their community. Credibility. Credibility boils down to Trump's words maybe matching or not matching the reality of the average voter. This could be especially true as the election nears. Now, Trump does not always help himself. I don't think he helped himself at the debate. With his credibility, he's been questioned at times. Critics have, there's been circles of investigations that's launched since he took office, both involving political and personal maneuverings. But a question also to consider too is how much can the people telling the story, the media, be trusted? We know we've doubted some of the news, and is it really the truth? Our parents and grandparents maybe said this, maybe you've heard your grandparents or parents say this. You can't always believe what you read, and you can't always believe what you hear. And I think the media and some of the news has been questioned recently. A question remains, though. Will voters see a disconnect between Trump's words and how they view the COVID-19 impact on their wallets? And that brings us to the economy. That's what most of you are probably worried about. The percentage of voters who approve of Trump's handling of the economy generally seems to be exceeding the percentage who approve of him personally. We might like his economics, but we might not like him personally. A perceived economic downturn, including high unemployment, could place jeopardy of the support for the former group. As for the virus goes, some might think the outbreak is something out of Trump's control and believe that he will reconstitute a strong economy when the effects pass, just as he maintained a strong economy when he took office. In particular, the gains made since the market, since COVID-19 crash have been very impressive. Strong rallies coming off of March drop-off have found stock market indices achieving record highs, which I think is surprising to many of us. Who's going to win? We have the two candidates. Here again, this is not a political opinion of ours, but one of the two is going to lead our country, and the issue is here for us today is how might that affect your financial life? And we want to, as we say, share our knowledge of what we think you could be doing no matter who takes office here in November. Mr. Trump, make America great again. I think he's done a lot of good things, but always nothing's perfect and there's room for improvement. Remember, okay, and also the vice president pick from Kamala Harris for Mr. Biden. That could also be a wild card going forward in this presidential election. One of Trump's signature legislation achievements, one thing he has done that I think all of us probably have enjoyed, is the Tax Trump Code, the Tax Cuts and Job Loss Act. The measure did cut income taxes rates for most of us but they are set to expire in 2025. However, Congress could renew some of those or maybe extend those provisions for a period of time. We believe that taxes right now are really what we call on sale. The tax Trump code, the tax cut cost really have put a lot of you in a very good income tax situation, lowering taxes for most of you. But if I ask you this, what would you predict will happen with taxes in the future? Especially after several rounds of spending, the stimulus packages, trillions of dollars have been appointed this year to assist individuals and businesses that have impacted COVID-19. At some point, these trillions of dollars will need to be repaid. And guess who the burden falls on? Us, the American taxpayer. We simply believe that taxes are going to have to go up. And that's why we want to talk about tax planning here in the very near future. Now, let me talk to you about the difference of a traditional IRA versus a Roth. We believe right now another action step that you might consider taking is to consider if a Roth conversion might make mathematical sense for you and your family. The concept of a traditional IRA is you put the money in, got the tax deduction when you put the money in the account, but all the money that's grown when you take it out is all taxable. The concept of a Roth is you pay tax on the contribution now, but the growth of that account is tax-free. And we believe we are in a great position right now to pay less taxes over our lifetime by consider converting some of your money to a Roth. Now, let me ask you a question. Let's think about a farmer for a minute. A farmer buys seed to plant in his fields to get a harvest. And those costs of those seeds cost so much money. Now, let me ask you this question. If you were a farmer, would you rather pay taxes on the seed or would you rather pay taxes on the harvest? In other words, the concept of a Roth IRA is you pay taxes on what you deposit today, and all that money grows tax-free for the future, where when you do a traditional IRA, you are delaying the inevitable. And we really believe right now there's some great opportunities to pay less taxes over your lifetime. The seed or the harvest, we think paying tax on the seed makes more mathematical sense. So another thing we want to offer you today is to get a Roth conversion review. In other words, we are willing here at Chair Wealth Advisors to take a report that we have, and we can project out how much taxes you're going to have to pay in your traditional IRA and help you understand if it might make sense mathematically to convert to a Roth. Many people are taking advantage of this opportunity right now. You will see here on the screen, this is simply an example of someone maybe having $725,000. And on the left-hand side of your screen, that's your typical traditional IRA. And assuming they lived age 90, they will end up paying over $411,000 over their lifetime, where if they converted to a Roth, they could lower that tax liability to $187,000. That's over a $200,000 saving by taking some tax planning techniques and think about a Roth IRA versus traditional. Once again, we will run a report for you. We will run a tax analysis specifically for you and your family to see if it might make sense. And here again, if taxes are going to go up now, I'd rather pay tax on the seed than the harvest. You'll also see on the screen again right now the calendar. If you'd like for us to run a Roth IRA conversion and see if we can potentially save you hundreds of thousands of dollars of income taxes, what a great opportunity, because it's inevitable. Taxes are going to go up. We encourage each and every one of you to see if converting to a Roth makes sense for you and your family. A few more thoughts on this election. Are we going to go to the polls? Are we going to do mail-in ballots? The discussion, is it going to be fair? Is there going to be things kind of going behind the scenes? I'm trying to trust us that we're an ethical country and every ballot will be counted, but who knows how long it might take to find out who wins this election. That could also affect stock market volatility. I'm going to vote. I hope you're going to vote. I think it's our civic duty. But I tell you, this year, I'm sure there's a lot of people questioning the legitimacy of this election. And honestly, if there is a delay, if we vote on November the 4th and it takes a while to find out who actually won the presidential part, which party won, that could affect the stock market. And that's why we reach out to you today to say, take some action now to put yourself in a position no matter who wins, because there could be tremendous amount of uncertainty going forward. Whether it's going to be Trump, whether it's going to be Biden, who knows? Now, obviously, we look at this right here. Obviously, what you see on the screen right here is not a campaign sign. That's not a campaign sign. However, it leads to us to our third and final action that we think you should think about doing to ensure your financial foundation is secure. I don't know if there's anything that we could be talking about right now that's more important for our clients. So I want you to pay attention to these next 2 or 3 slides. For years now, we've had new clients walk through our doors. We visit with them about what we call their fiscal or financial house. Just like building your physical house, we want to build your financial house. And it's absolutely critical that we get one thing straight and solid. That one thing, of course, is your foundation. We have to have a strong foundation for our homes, and I believe we need to have a strong foundation in your financial life. Several of you have built a home before, and as far as excitement goes, unless you just like looking at concrete, foundations are really pretty boring as things come. Now there's just several, walls of cement poured several feet deep with rebar, but they're not all that exciting, but they're absolutely critical because on them, everything else is built, right? So those fancy granite countertops you like for your kitchen or your amazing master bath that we build, those things truly don't matter if the foundation caves. The same is true in your foundation in your retirement. In retirement, the equivalent of your boring foundation for us is your income streams. You've been working for 30 or 40 years. The vast majority of you have done a great job of building your nest egg, but once in retirement, you need that nest egg to create an income plan. You want that paycheck in retirement to come month after month after month as long as you're alive. So in my opinion, we want your income plan to be boring. We don't want your income in retirement to be exciting. We don't want it to be up and down and up and down. We want good consistency and predictability. That is the number one concern that people have in retirement. Do I have enough money and will I run out? And with what's going on here in 2020 and the stock market ride that some of you are on, getting a retirement income plan is most important for each and every one of you. Now, a true retirement income plan is just a few concise pages in simple English, and a true income plan should answer 5 questions. Number 1, it should tell you exactly when the paychecks you create for yourself in retirement will begin and which money you will tap into first. So identify when the income starts and where do we pull it from. Second, it should tell you in what order that you will tap into those buckets of money, because that's very important. Third, a good retirement income plan won't just stay static, because of the cost of goods don't stay static either. It has to grow over time to be able to keep up with inflation. That's something we want to always address here at my firm. Fourth, it should have a built-in provision for what might happen should you or your spouse become incapacitated or need long-term care or nursing home protection. And finally, this is perhaps the greatest question we can help you address. It should mathematically show you exactly how long will your money last, regardless of what happens with elections, regardless of what happens in stock market volatility, regardless of what happens in global pandemics. A true retirement plan will give you consistent cash flow throughout your retirement, regardless of what the market does. Do you believe you have that type of plan in place right now? Maybe you've been working with a financial advisor for years, and maybe that financial advisor has done a phenomenal job of helping you grow the assets. But have you had a sit-down conversation now that you're nearing retirement, or maybe you've been retired for a few years, that helps you understand with clarity how we're going to create money and income plan? Now, I want to let you know, first of all, it's not your fault. You're not alone. If you don't have an income plan, believe it or not, the mass majority of the families who come to visit with us each and every week do not have an income plan, and it's not your fault. And I want you to hear that out loud and clear, because here's what I know. I know that some point in most people's lives, not knowing exactly how investing and Planning for Retirement Works, they made a brave and bold decision, and you likely did too. You picked up the phone, you called someone to help them, and you did that at some point, and then hear me here. I want to commend you for making that phone call because you took action. And likely you wouldn't be to where you are today had you not taken that action. But the fact that no one has created a written income plan for you is not your fault. The truth of the matter is you did your part. And candidly, several advisors just don't specialize in income planning. Doesn't mean they're bad, as I said. Doesn't mean they didn't do a great job of helping you grow the money, but they simply are not experienced in the level of retirement planning to show you then how to take your assets and turn them into an income stream. And that is the number one thing that most of you have. If you would like to have an income plan for yourself, this is the third action step I think you should take. On your screen again, you'll see our calendar to book a time to do that. We can sit down with you, analyze your holdings, and show you how to create income guaranteed for the rest of your life in many situations. Boring, boring, boring. Ladies and gentlemen, 2020, we've never experienced this before. We've had several different issues in our life and concerns with our family health, your investments, your retirement, structuring your plan to last throughout the rest of your lifetime is what all of you probably are concerned about. And we're here to tell you we're to help you in any way we can. We want to thank you for attending this presentation today. And we want to give you that third and final action step, as we said here on the screen. You'll see our calendar. If you are wondering, will your money last throughout the rest of your life? The third action step we think you should take advantage of is getting an income plan and quit wondering and put together that foundation of your retirement. We want to thank you for attending today, and we want to give you some opportunities here to take action. More than ever in our lifetimes, what unusual things have happened, we've experienced, and we believe that Cherry Wealth Advisors can maybe give you some better clarity and understanding during this election time and thereafter. So first and foremost, you also see on the screen here again, you've got our calendar. We've carved out time to simply have what we call a 15-minute phone conversation. We call it a 15-minute retirement-ready phone call. To get on the phone with us, to share your concerns, to have a little visit, and then we might decide if you'd like to come in, have a meeting with us face-to-face, and take advantage of these offers. The risk analysis to help you identify how much loss you could experience. Does it make sense to look at a Roth IRA conversion? Do you have an income plan that will stand the test of time, no matter who wins the election or the future of the COVID-19? That's right, you're one step closer to being retirement ready if you reach out to us today to take a look at that. I'd like to wrap up the presentation today, if you could. And I want to get my handsome face on the screen again real quick. Hey, what a year. Uncertainty. We'd like to have certainty. I'm as amazed at what the market's done the past 12 months as you are. Sometimes I looked after the March and I couldn't believe the market was still up. I'm glad it was. But if you do not want to be on that large roller coaster ride, if you want to pay less taxes, if you just want to get a second opinion from someone who's been doing this for over 25 years, get on our calendar, have a conversation. We have 3 offices across the Panhandle right here in Fort Walton Beach. We have an office in Destin. We have an office in Panama City Beach. We make it as easy and simple as possible. And the good news is there's no obligation, there's no cost. If you'd like to get a second opinion or even a first opinion, if you're a current client of ours right now and want to reevaluate what we've been doing, pick up the phone, call 850-CHERRY-9, 850-CHERRY-9, click on our calendar and take advantage of our services today at no cost, no obligation. Hey, hang in there. The next couple of weeks are going to be pretty interesting. The next few months after the election is going to be pretty interesting. Hang on tight. We'll get through this together. And if we can be of any service to you, reach out to us today. Thank you for attending our presentation.